everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Walter Swan Poetry Prize winners announcement. First, I must thank not only the Ilkley Festival for giving me the opportunity to be here as poet in residence, but also the Walter Swan Trust for supporting this competition, named for a talented writer in a range of genres who died far too young, and it is good that we remember him now. A strong poet, among his other accomplishments, we celebrate poetry in this event in his name.
Hello there, my name is Nicola Swan and I'm representing the Walter Swan Trust, which is the sponsor of this Poetry Prize. I'd just like to say a huge thank you to Ilkley Literature Festival for the opportunity for this lovely sponsorship, which every year we've enjoyed doing so very much. A particular thanks to the judges, Ian Duhig and Rheima Robinson, and of course, most importantly, to all the poets who submitted their poems on the theme of the return. I've really enjoyed reading them all. It's been a real pleasure, and thank you so much for your contributions.
Judging a poetry competition is both a privilege and a nightmare. A nightmare because it is fundamentally impossible to compare and rank work which is essentially different in nature, with different purposes, constructed according to different rules. A privilege because all the people who enter put the best of themselves into their poems, trying to do justice to what is most important to them, calling from the judge a similar obligation to do justice with their work. The theme of the return at one level might suggest a return to semi-normal life after lockdown, following on from last year's competition theme. But that is not how the majority of our poets interpreted it, and their work was all the better for it, ranging from returns through memory to almost supernatural revenant episodes, with a high standard of imagination and skill evident throughout. All these poems are excellent in different ways, and if I had to account for my grading of them, I could only say it was the intensity of the prize winner's work that made the difference. That is not to say you couldn't argue with my decisions. What I do want to say is that they are all winners, and if I didn't have to choose between them, I wouldn't have, but invited them all to sit at a round table to be celebrated. I also want to make a quick mention of three special commendations: The Last Trip Home by Michael Farry, Refraction by Louisa Rimmer, and The Curve We Make by Michael Rose, poems which jostled with the prize winners until the last round. Third prize, The Year of Two Winters by Emma Storr, struck me immediately with its bittersweet tone, the movement and return reflected in its layout on the page, which you miss in the reading, of time and emotion, age and youth, hope and melancholy, with a European sensibility to go with its locations. The third verse invokes tremendous poignancy with craft and economy, qualities that mark a good poet. The last verse has musical phrasings of considerable beauty, picking up imagery that's opened the poem from black through dark to waited for light, an intricate and delicate and delicately made poem that loses out on a higher placing by the width of a cigarette paper.
Hi, I'm Emma Storr and I'm thrilled to have won third prize in the Walter Swan Poetry Competition. Thanks very much to everyone involved, and in particular to Ian Duhig. My poem, The Year of Two Winters, is really about my return from New Zealand to the UK in 2010, when it was a particularly cold winter and I was in a rented flat and remember having to scrape ice off the inside of the windows every morning. So here's my poem. The year of two winters was black ice treachery. I flew from dark into dark. The flat so cold my breath left frosted whirls inside the glass each night. It felt like camping with borrowed kit. I looked up at the concrete sky, the red kites tilting on their wings, the colours of suburbia. So distant from the southern Alps, I'd learned to love, then to leave. I flew between the hemispheres with scarred wings, left behind a scattered nest. I waited for the light to come, to garland me with longer days, with hope that starts in February, snowdrops pushing up and through. Thank you.
Julia Deakin's heartbreaking elegy, Backstory, took second prize, a miniature tragedy for our times and a truly accomplished piece of writing. Every good poem has a subtext about language, Edna Longley said, and here the ground of the poem is the wordless yard, and the way the drug names are rattled off with their own percussive music, which reminded me of the late lamented Kieran Carson doing the same with names of British Army military equipment. Backstory shuttles between present distress and its early roots, reflecting on that journey in a distorting mirror. Simple and sophisticated, this double portrait of the child that is mother to the woman will haunt those who hear it and read it for years.
Backstory. 6 years old, she stands in the wordless yard, head bowed, eating sweets, found or given, one after another, mechanically. Love hearts or refreshers, I'd like to say they were. 16, fluoxetine. 36, sertraline. Citalopram, 44. Her world. I can't tell you how much this hurts. I can't tell you her world. Citalopram, 44. 36, sertraline. 16, fluoxetine. I'd like to say they were love hearts or refreshers, mechanically. One after another, sweets, found or given, head bowed, eating in the wordless yard. She stands, 6 years old.
First prize went to Linda Burnett's poem, Raptor's Bell, that held my attention from the moment I first read it, with its insistent rhythms, dramatic imagery, and almost Anglo-Saxon bitten-off diction, largely monosyllabic, that reminds me of the fragmentary poem called The Ruin in that language. It takes the competition theme in its stride and is the most original treatment of its chosen subject matter that I can think of in all the poetry I've read, and with the savage title metaphor brooding over the proceedings, what could have so easily been sentimental is brutally memorable. A hard poem of hard times that we may see again. A true poem of the North, inspired by its poetry and history.
Hello, I'm Linda Burnett, and I was thrilled to have been awarded first prize in the Walter Swan Poetry Competition for this year for my poem, Raptor's Bill. It was inspired by finding an old wool rug making tool when I cleared out the family home in Yorkshire a few years ago. So here it is, Raptor's Bill. Chill soared through the boards. Coal was slack, and we wore gloves to read. She worked rugs from old wool rags to coat the rink of lino after dark. But we would never warm. Head bowed low each night, canvas stretched across her knees to see how far she'd gone, poking scraps into a cipher of her own design, vexed and bled with sighs. She'd stab and pierce her loom with testy thrusts, rip at rags, and tear a piece like flesh from Raptor kill. Knurl screwed round the neb, scavenging use from lifeless shreds. Hook was varnished once, ground by hand to grey in grimy patina of wear. It smelt of sweat and had a talon lipped by snapping beak of steel we feared might bite. Rugs perished in the dust, but festering. When I return to clear the residue, the buried bill, now rusted shut, clings to the memory, loath to release its prey.
Hello, my name is Rheima Robinson and I am the 2021 Apprentice Poet in Residence for Ilkley Literature Festival. And so I was tasked with judging the Walter Swan Prize. It was no easy task, but I have my top 3. And so in 3rd place, I selected A Return to Exile by Ngoy Hu Chien. I selected this poem because A Return to Exile for me really resembled a short story or even a prose, which I really enjoyed that about their approach to writing.
Hi everyone, I'm Ngoy Hui Chen from Malaysia. I came 3rd in the 18 to 25 category, and this is my poem. A Return to Exile. The first time the rain sauntered in my life was 2 years ago when I studied in Leeds. Drizzle as light as fleece sprayed on me from the sky, which was so different from the tropical rain in Malaysia, where heavy droplets often struck me to the skin. No wonder the Caucasians could stroll outdoors without a raincoat, without an umbrella. My British maid was walking to the Parkinson building on a rainy day. When will you return home? It must be a long flight back to China. His concern, friendly yet unsettling, was instantly sprayed on my heart. But could I really tell myself apart from my friends from China? How our eyes were right? How we had rice with Hanyu Pinyin? How we were sanitized with an Oriental fear during the COVID outbreak, as though the multiple eyes were split from a single eye. A single source, like the rain that always falls from the sky, wherever it may be. But does it always condense from William Wordsworth's clouds? Shall they return to Shuting Sea? Or Muhammad Haji Saleh's river? From South China to Southeast Asia, from a boat braving a tempest to a plane thrusting towards the west, a multifaceted inheritance. Farmer, tin miner, cook, businessman, and me trying to return to history. trying to imagine how the rain feels like in China, a faraway kingdom for the retired British colonial master, and the Malaysian Chinese. The chauvinist chided and claimed we should return to China, a land that will be upset by a hybrid culture, accented with an intense odor as distinct as the durian, or the strong non-young petrichor that will judge George Eliot's roses. Pity patter, the rain hitting on my zinc rooftop on the equator, as rhythmic as my fingers tangling on my keyboard. Every drop a return to exile, flooding generations of desolation across regions and time. An exile that shall remain even after the rain to the tomb of our minds. Returns.
In second place, I have selected Ambulance by Abigail Shaw. The reason I've selected this poem is that it gave me chills from the first line. It's really introspective and pulled out a type of emotion in me, a type of care and sympathy. And so overall for me, it was a very emotive piece of poetry.
Hi, my name is Abigail Shaw and this is my poem, The Ambulance. I'm not the skeleton they found. I'm not the pile of naked branches in which children build their second homes. I wasn't alive for the Holocaust, so I'm not a sallow bar of soap. I don't have the waxy skin of a marionette. I'm not the one holding Dad's hand. I don't have clasped white knuckles. I'm not stealing £10 from your dresser, or 50, or 100. I'm not still doing that. I didn't call Mum a cunt the first Christmas she locked the door. I'm not trapped in the reflection of a glistening knife's edge. This isn't the 5th time. I haven't been wading in water. I'm no untapped vein. The morning breaks. I'm not walking into the light to leave. I don't want to be free-floating, caught in God's hands or a tractor beam. In my bed, I wake up screaming, I want my life. I want my life.
And in first place, I have selected The Return, Came Home All the Same by Francesca Wells. I really enjoyed this poem just purely on the simplicity of the writing. It had beautiful images of home that really spoke to me. The poem managed to reference a really cruel period that the entire world has been suffering through collectively, and the poem managed to reference this time in period, but in a very unnerving way, which I thought was brilliant.
Walking into your childhood home after a long journey, you can smell the washing powder on the air. You try to fit your personality back into the shape that it has always taken within these walls. You don't look the same. It has been 6 months. There is a cake on the table that your mother has made for you. She has spread jam thickly between the layers. You decide to wait until they are home. It would be rude to eat it without them. You walk up to your bedroom and the air smells like polish. You didn't say you were coming home until last night. Baking a cake? Dusting? That all takes time. You wonder if they always keep the house spick and span just in case you decide to show up at their door. Wishful thinking, regret, or not quite, sadness that it ended up like this. It would have been so easy just to acquiesce and fit your life around their plans. Someone to walk you down the aisle, someone to make the speech. But she meant more to you than their opinions, and you said you would never return. Pandemics prompt parental apologies, apparently. New start. You can even invite her. As if it was not an insult not to use her name. And yet, you lied to your wife, and you came home all the same.
That is my top 3 for the Walter Swan Prize 18 to 25 entries. Congratulations to everyone. I must say all the poems were amazing. It was a very, very difficult task, and I definitely swapped the top 3 round a few times, and so I want to say well done for everybody that entered the competition. I hope you all keep writing. I can't wait to read all of your poetry in the future, and I look forward to having a one-to-one session with my winner, Francesca Wills.
I would like to thank the audience for joining us, the poets for reading their work so well, and all the competition entrants, not only those mentioned here, who all joined us in an event which was a celebration of poetry, and in doing so also became the subject of our celebrations. Thank you all. Congratulations and best wishes.